I'm about to start. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? This is the Dr. Inia Desonia show. And yeah, sorry about some little technical difficulties this evening, but we're good to go. Just wanted to appreciate everybody, and I'm Dr. Inia Desonia. I appreciate everyone that has commented, watched. Just being part of this program has been amazing. Just started off last year, and it's just been, moving forward. And I just wanted to appreciate everyone that has, again, commented, complimented, just being part of this program. And, just wanted to say a big thank you. All right. So again, this is a platform where I speak on SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, and how to make sure that SMEs do what? Thrive. All about thriving. And I have been sharing great topics, and also wanted to say thank you for all my guests. I had a guest, I believe, last week, and I've had a couple of guests here, professionals, in addition to people that just want to, business owners, not just people, business owners that just want to share their they want to share some of the issues they are going through. So thank you for everyone that has actually been part of this program so far. And I and everybody else that's just been part of this program, we're just keeping it going, and I'm very grateful. All right, today I have another interesting topic, and today's topic is about risk. Today I'm going to talk about some of the risks that SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, some of the risks that they face, and how to, mitigate, or how to, deal with this risk, right? We know that risks are usually there, but it's not just having that risk and not knowing how to handle it. Is just making sure that you have general things in place. So different aspects, different things in place. I'm going to discuss them depending on the risk, the type of risk. All right. So the very first one I'm going to talk about is the business interruption risk, right? We all know what happened during COVID. There was a lot of business interruption, right? But now we're not really in the COVID season right now. I know that we might still feel the effects of COVID, but when we look at the the business interruption risk, I'm not only talking about COVID. There could be natural disasters. We know what's happening in some cities right now with the fires happening, the floods happening. It could be anything. It could be even unrest, right? It could be civil unrest, people protesting, and it can actually affect your business. So those are the risks. There are external risks that happen, to your business, right? And it affects a business across the board. If there's a natural disaster right now, no matter what business you're in, no matter what type of industry, SME, you actually will be affected if that area has a natural disaster. We heard recently about I believe a train that capsized, and because of that, there's a chemical spill. So if your business is in that area, of course, it will affect that the business. So what do you do? What do you do when to prevent or to deal with that kind of risk, right? Now, the very first thing you have to get, if you don't already have it, is business insurance. You have to have insurance that will cover, your business, right? All kinds of insurance there. And also, I want to state here, when you're getting insurance, make sure you know what's in the insurance policies. Please make sure you know that, because you don't want to be in a place that there's actually an issue with your business because of maybe a natural disaster, but you can't claim on that insurance because you did not read the insurance properly, right? You did not, cover some terms like act of God, right? You did not, the policy did not cover those terms. So you have to really look at the clause, the issue there. What is the clause? What are the clauses? And if you don't know how to read an insurance policy, get a professional. Get a professional that will help you. It's better for you to make sure that those things are covered, right? Now, when you talk about business interruption, there are other things that you can do to prevent, and I know to prevent or to mitigate that risk. Another way is if you deal with inventory. I know I've mentioned this before. I talked about JIT, just in time inventory. What does that mean? Assuming you have not heard me speak about this, maybe this is your first time of listening to my platform, right? Or coming on this platform. Well, JIT, which is the just-in-time inventory, means that you actually have inventory when orders are in place. So what does that do? It saves cost. If you have inventory when orders are in place, it actually saves cost. So you don't have to have so much money, pay so much money for storage, right? So it's JIT. If you're interested in it, look it up and make sure that you are looking at it. But for your SME, but also it depends on if you do deal with inventory, right? If you don't deal with inventory, you might not really need that. Okay. And then another aspect on something else that you can mitigate the business interruption is lean business models, right? Now, there's so many definitions of lean business model. I'm not going to go through all the definitions, but I want to really stress on a few points. Lean business model is where your business continues to improve such that efficiency is will I say guaranteed, or you're working towards a very efficient business and you're removing waste. Waste could be so many things, time, delivery time, all kinds of things could involve what do you mean by waste? And it depends on your industry, right? So, but know that lean business model is to make sure that your business is so efficient, right? And such a way that it's, even though there are external factors that might come about, right? You've already put things in place that prepares for any kind of external interruption, right? Any kind of business interruption. All right. So again, we could go on and speak about the lean business model, but that would be, it's likely I might have a show on that only. But just know that that when we're looking at the business interruption risk, make sure you have your insurance. Make sure you're looking at how to, have your business, the lean business model, and also make sure that you have things like JIT, and there are so many other things you can look at, so many other products you can look at that will make sure that your business is efficient, because JIT is actually a way of lean model, is a lean model that you can capitalize in lean business model, capitalize on. All right. So that's one of the risks, and that's how to mitigate it. The next risk is the risk which is internal within your office. Right? What are some of the risks? Staff, right? When you have staff, you have to understand that as you have staff working with you, there's risk within your business, right? So staff should be able to have staff should be able to sign a staff handbook, right? Staff handbook. Now, many SMEs might say, oh, you don't need a staff handbook. I don't know if you've gone through all my shows, but there was a case that an expert came on board, and she was explaining how somebody sued the owner of the company because of not having policies in place. And it's so, I think what really caught my attention, is that this was a family business. So one of them was not doing very well. I think one of the company fired this person, and the person took the family business to court. And I believe that person actually won because there were not laid down policies in place for staff. Right? Some people take it for granted. Oh, it's my best friend. We grew up together. Oh, it's my family. It's good. No, there's nothing wrong with having business with your family and having business with your friends, with your relations. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's so important to have a very strict, when I say strict, I'm talking about having a standard, right? Because your staff handbook, as long as it's a standard staff handbook, when I say strict, when I say strict, I'm saying strictly follow the process of the staff handbook. As the owner of the company, you should say, you know what, this is what we're going with. You're not doing something on the other end and not, following through. So you have to make sure that you have a staff handbook. And even in addition to that, well, it still depends on your business, but most times in the service industry, we have professional liability insurance. That's really important. Even as an accountant, you should have that too. Professional liability insurance. What this does is really make sure that if there's any issue, your insurance takes care of it. All right. So that is when it comes to internal risk. All right. So making sure that that your staff understand what is really what is really expected in the business. And we all get so caught up with, oh, the person is very good, very efficient on their job. Well, what about other factors, right? What about the person's relationship with other people, right? Maybe the person is maybe a genius in what he or she is doing, but what about if the person is not doing not following rules and regulations within your business, right? And that, why that is so important, because somebody can actually sue you because that staff is working in your company. If the staff does something that is not aligned with your staff handbook, and that does something to somebody else, and there's no staff handbook in place, you know who's the owner of the company? You are the owner of the company. And that's when cases come up. The person can actually, another staff can say, oh, the owner of the company did not even do anything. But if there's a staff handbook and this person goes against the staff handbook, you can actually deal accordingly with that person. So if there's any swing or liability, you know what happens? There's due diligence on your part. All right. Also, that's internal risks. The next risk is what? Reputation damage risk, or should I say reputation risk. With social media all around us right now, a lot of people can just say something there on social media and actually it has a very huge impact on your business. SMEs, is something that you have to really sit back and make sure that you're on top of things. The reason why I'm saying this, a lot of large businesses actually have a department that is dedicated to responding to any negative feedback. They have a department that deals specifically with social media. I know SMEs, most of the times, they don't have the resources to do that, but you should at least have somebody that's even maybe having it as part of his or her job to make sure that if anything goes on, any feedback, that the person can actually step up and respond to anything on, any negative feedback or even positive feedback. Thank you for the compliment, right? Now, there are sometimes things happen in SMEs that you have to, maybe something happens in the business. Maybe I know large businesses have to do a recall. Assuming something like that happens in your business, that you have to do a recall. For example, I'm just using that example. Be transparent. Everybody likes to hear someone that is truthful. Be transparent and tell them that, okay, you know what? I thank you so much for being for what you've done, towards over the years. And, we had a hiccup here somewhere and we're fixing it, and because of that, we're giving some kind of discount or something. It might cost you something, but I guarantee you, right? Even if it costs you some amount of money, that maybe 10, 20, 30% discount will actually bring other people to your business. Oh my goodness, the person was so transparent. Oh my goodness, I really would like to continue to patronize this person. And the person, because remember, referrals are big. They'll say, okay, you know what? Tell that, and the person will tell their friends, tell his or her friend, or it just spreads like that, right? So that's how you mitigate that reputation damage, right? So make sure you're on top of things when it comes to your social media. Make sure, there's nothing wrong with putting a press release out there if there's something that you see or you've heard, or somebody hears something about your business and it's not true. You just, oh yeah, this is what you're hearing, but wanting to set the record straight. Don't think that, oh, my business is too small. No, transparency works. And everybody that has a business wants to grow that business, right? Wants to live that, little bitty business to a great business, right? Large business. And one thing is that if you really recognize your staff, no, not your staff, your customers, your clients. I mean, who doesn't like to be recognized? Who doesn't like to be happy that people sing that, oh, thank you, I appreciate them. I mean, I love that. I'm sure other people love it too. So that is a way to mitigate, right? Damages, right? And yeah, when it comes to reputation that is damaging. And why I'm talking about reputation that generally is because you have to even get to see a reputation that is damaging, you have to be able to respond, or to be constantly, you have to constantly you have to constantly check what's happening on social media, regarding your company. All right, you have to continue to check. All right. Okay, so it's not like, okay, the damaging just no. You might not even, if you're not up to date with your social media, how would you even know if somebody put something out that is damaging, right? So I know it's an extra layer of work, but honestly, it can be an advantage. I know that I mentioned this in one of my shows, but just in case you haven't listened to that show, I remember when somebody was talking about a makeup artist, and she said that I was really looking for a makeup artist for my wedding. I really wanted to really look good. So I really, of course, weddings, everyone wants to look good. So she said that, how she chose the person that actually really made her, did her makeup. She went through so many, websites, so many, Instagram, all kinds, just to get the person that, worked best for her. She said she went with this person, and hear this. She went with this person because of her response to a negative review. I mean, can you believe that? She said, because of her response to that negative review, that's why she went with this makeup artist. I mean, that was just a mind-blowing revelation to people that don't take social media seriously. All right. So that is a way to really mitigate your reputation risk, or damage, or just generally reputation risk. Okay. The next risk is when it comes to being sued. I will call it liability risk. A lot of SMEs take this for granted. They just sign contracts, they give employment contracts, they sign contracts, they just take it for granted. Now, if you're an SME, and I know a lot of people will say, you know what, I can't afford a lawyer, an attorney. Now, there's so many platforms where you can outsource an attorney, right? Where they review contracts. I'm not going to mention it here, but do your research, because that makes a difference. When you're getting employment contracts in place for your employees, make sure you are really getting them a correct employment contract. Don't just pick it up from the internet, right? Because it might not work in your state. Even if you do pick it up from the internet, get an attorney to review and say, okay, is this okay? Is this okay? And then they say, okay, yeah. Sometimes attorneys even make changes here and there. Say, yes, go with this, but they make slight changes here and there. So make sure you have an attorney to review all contracts, because you don't want to open yourself for being sued, or you don't want to be sued left, right, and center. You don't want to do that. Because it's very expensive. If you consult an attorney before you sign a contract, it's great, because the legal fees to fight contracts is so high. So it's so important that you actually get an attorney to look over your every single contract. Now, you should have a standard employment contract. So I'm not saying that you should have an attorney that looks at all 20 or 50. No, if you have a standard employment contract and your employee said, and your attorney says, that's fine, go ahead with it. Then you use that for everyone, right? So there's nothing wrong. But if you're not sure and you say, okay, there might be changes. And I would say actually ask your attorney to review it on a yearly basis. If you have a standard one, fine. And you said, go with this. And maybe a yearly or even 6 months, say, you know what, I'm trying to employ somebody else. Has anything changed from what you sent to me, what you approved? And they said, okay, no, go ahead. Go ahead. That is still the same format. Okay, just to be on the safe side. All right. So if anything changes, right, your attorney will say, you know what, let's change it here, let's change it there. I mean, I am not an attorney, but for my master's internal revenue code, I did master's in tax, which includes all the internal revenue codes and all the treasury regs, what I had to read that. So laws continue to change, right? What was in place in 2023 was in place in 2020. It's not likely to be, might have changed in 2023 when it comes to tax laws. So I personally have to continue to update myself with changes so I can really be efficient and effective for my clients. So when you're having contract, you don't know if things have changed. So it's good to always pass your contract, that even if your attorney has already approved it, pass it by, or your attorney again and say, is this okay? Now, if it's any other agreement, that's just employment. But if there's any other agreement there that somebody says, oh, just sign this, please get an attorney to look through it, because there might be some fine print fine print that you might think, oh no, it's not a big deal, it's just a fine print. If it's with all those fine prints, make sure an attorney looks at it and he says, you know what, go ahead, sign it, you're fine. Is it just sometimes the attorney might say, no, this is just a regular contract, there's nothing new, and that's fine. But you're covered because you know that someone that is in that field, if professional, can actually look at it and review it. All right. Okay, so that's I believe that's the fourth. I have the other, and the fifth risk. Now, before I continue, please note that we could go on with risks. There are so many risks out there. I just picked about 5, I believe. I said the business interruption risk, the internal risk. I also said reputation risk, which is or reputation damage risk. And then I also spoke about the risk of being sued or liability risk. Now, the last one, which is the fifth one, is, the data breach risk. The data breach risk. Now, we know what's happening. Now everything is IT, everything we're looking at, great, efficient IT product, which is awesome. I'm not the best in IT. I'm not really high end. Of course, I'm not an IT professional. So you know what? I'm not supposed to be so high up in knowing every IT aspect of accounting or taxation. But I know IT is very important, right? Now, one of the things that happened during COVID is, we are IT, or information technology. We all had to even use it in a more should I say productive? We had to really use it. When you want to quantify the use before COVID, of course, is more now during and after COVID. Now, one of the risks with that is the data breach risk. Now, how do you mitigate that? Okay. Now, if you have passwords, make sure if you're the only, sometimes you're the only owner, you're the only staff and the owner of the business. So you're the only staff and you own the business. Please make sure you continuously change your password. Some people change up after every 30 days, every 60, depends on what you want to do. Make sure that it's, I believe there's a standard that they advise IT world advise us to change it after a period of time. I can't remember, it's 30, 60, 90, but you know what, you know best. Make sure you work with your IT professional. Another thing that happens, I know that I believe recently, even with basic emails, most of these general emails, they're asking for two-step verification. Many of them, in many aspects now, banks are asking, they are using two-step verification for almost everything. Banks, all kinds of, and I said even basic emails, not business emails, basic emails, right? Now, you are in a business, it's your business. Make sure you have things like that in place. It heightens security, right? Two-step verification, right? Heightens security. All right. Another way you can mitigate this is what? The cloud, right? Cloud. I love cloud so much. Of course, I know people talk about servers, backup. That's fine. I like to be anywhere and everywhere, and I can just log into my business and just, make sure I can log in and access files, or, I like things like that. I do have backup here and there, but I really like cloud backup. Now, when you're using cloud, right, to mitigate, I talked about, data breaches. I would say make sure you're using a reputable company to host your cloud, your information in cloud. Reputable company. I know that the IT world, they have a lot of licenses that most outsourced companies must have, or they should have. So do your research. If you are not sure, get an outsourced IT person to really look into this and say, okay, is this person a reliable vendor? Do I go with this? Now, it's okay if you have a backup system. That's fine. That's you. But I'm just saying that those that want to even go into cloud, right? Which I think a lot of times the world is moving to. You want to be able to travel and have, or be able to have your data as when and as needed, right? But you have to make sure that your data is really secured. Make sure you're using a company that can actually secure the data, right? Make sure you're really having that company and done your research, right? To see what company you should use, all right? Another way to mitigate data breach is to have cyber insurance, right? Most business insurance, professional business insurance companies, they will tell you that they have cyber insurance. I know a lot of people don't ask, but I would say ask if you have if they have, and usually they do, and say you want to do an add-on cyber insurance so that if anything happens, of course, you still have to protect the data. You have to protect the information of your clients, whether you're selling a product. If you're selling a product, you have credit card information, you have data, you have to keep that. If you're selling your services, you have your in service company, it's still credit card, things like that. And it even depends if you're in an industry that is even more sensitive, that has people that actually has people's social security numbers. People have so many things that they have that is so private. It's so important that you have insurance, and you're taking you're very strict, or you take it, is very, strict is there, but make sure that you are really protecting your client's data, right? Make sure you do your due diligence. You don't have to say, okay, yes, I'm going to use this cloud, or if you're going the cloud route, I'm going to use this person or this company because you can actually say that because I've done my research, right? And they have all the licenses. Now, if you have a server, somewhere that you have all your data, because some people still like local server, make sure it's well protected, make sure that it's locked. You have the right lock, and make sure it's well protected, right? So you don't want anybody to come in and steal data, right? And if you have files, some people still like the filing and everything. Kudos to you if you're into still liking the filing and everything, and paper filing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just feel that accessibility is so important. And I know some people label their files there. It's okay. I'm not saying that that's the wrong is not, it's bad for you to have it like that. But just make sure it's secured. But when we're talking about cybersecurity, we're really talking about data breach when it comes to computer data breach. All right. Okay, so I hope somebody has gotten there. If they're out there, if you're listening, I hope you've gotten something today, because you will face risk as an SME. Again, there are so many. I just mentioned 5, but the most important thing is how to mitigate that risk, right? Making sure that you're already prepared, and so that your business will keep on moving, even with certain things that have happened. Now, I know when we talk about the data breach, you can sort of somehow prevent that to a certain, you can. Internal risk, I mentioned that. Then the reputation damage, then of course, risk of being sued, liability, I really talked about that. But usually when it comes to, business interruption risk is somehow challenging, because you can't stop an earthquake, right? You can stop a forest fire, right? But you can actually put things in place to make sure that your business still operates, even if there's a downtime here and there. All right. Okay. So I hope somebody has received, you received some kind of information today. Also remember that everything I say here is for educational purposes only. It's not something that, you can really so hold us accountable that, but it's for educational purposes. You can actually use this and just do more research, by yourself on your own. But it's just getting information out there for you to really have a basis to say, okay, these things exist. All right. Awesome. So let's go to our questions. Let's go to our questions today. All right. So the first question here is that, okay, most of my staff are virtual. I want to bring my staff back to the office. Is that a good idea? Well, I know there's been all over the news about, should people be at home, or should they work from home, or wherever they want to work, or should they come back into the office? Now, I would say that what works for your, because this is not just a yes or no answer. I will say what works for your company. Now, I know that, I talked about staff retention some time ago on one of my programs. Now, for staff retention, right, one of the things that people love is the work-life balance, right? A lot of people love to work from home, right? Because of not having to get into the subway, or not having to drive and things like that, and so a lot of people feel that working from home actually is a way to retain staff. So I would say that if they have to come back, then they have to come back. But if you can operate very effectively and efficiently and still make good money, I would say that you should think again about bringing people back to the office. But another way you could actually do this is have throw it out there to your staff and ask who wants to come back to the office. Because some people actually, I know this might be a surprise to so many people. Some people actually want to go back to the office. They like working in the office. So I would say that put it out there and ask your staff. If it's now, let me hold that thought first of all, or hold that statement. Before you put it out there, do you actually need your staff? Ask yourself first, do you actually need your staff to come back to the office? Now, if you do, if it affects production, if it affects the company functioning, that is a different ball game. That's not a yes or no answer. But if you're asking that, could you, maybe not, and you know that you can actually be very efficient, even if your staff work from home, then ask them and say, who wants to come back to the office? Who wants to come back to the office? So it's something that you can put out there. All right. So I would say that it depends. Is it a good idea? It depends. If your company cannot work without your staff being in the office, then I would say your staff should come back to the office. But if your company can operate very efficiently, well, make good money while your staff are away, then put it out there and ask them, okay, who wants to come back to the office? Is it okay? If virtual teams actually increase savings, right? But again, it depends on your industry. It depends on how your company functions, right? Of course, when I say increase savings, because you don't have to pay for a brick and mortar office. If your lease is almost up, you think of it. Do you have to renew the brick and mortar office space? So think of it and find out what your team says. Now, it's okay. I would say some companies do that. They bring their team together for something so that they can still relate with each other. So again, first of all, it depends what kind of industry are you in. It also, if you're in industries that you have the option, ask your staff. I feel that if somebody's working for a company and the person actually has an opportunity to give their input, right? Say something. They can say something about how they feel about a situation that affects them. I would say that staff will be very happy to say something. that staff would be happy, because it's not about what you tell them, it's about what you think would work for them by giving them the opportunity to speak, right? All right, so that's the answer to that question. Okay, the second question here is, can I use my home equity line of credit for my business? That's HELOC. I know we call it HELOC, home equity line of credit for my business. Now, if you want to use well, I would say I don't believe that's a problem. There's no problem in getting a loan. If the bank approves the loan for your house, if they approve the loan. But the unfortunate thing is that for tax purposes, remember, if it's a typical loan, if you take a loan from the bank, right, a business loan, you can deduct the expenses. Remember, to deduct expenses in business, what happens? The business has to, the expense must be what? Ordinary and necessary for the business, right? So interest on a business loan is deductible, right? Because the business loan. But HELOC is different. If you take a home equity line of credit for your business, you cannot deduct the interest. You cannot deduct that interest. So yes, you can take the loan, but you cannot deduct any interest. Interest on home equity line of credit is only deductible if that money is used to renovate the house that you bought, that is you're taking the loan, the HELOC loan on, right? The credit, right? Line of credit, right? So if let's say you buy a house, and of course that house you want to do renovation, you take HELOC, right, on that house, right? Now, as long as you use that proceeds in fixing up that house, right? I believe you can actually use it for the second house, but I know that it's for that house. That amount is deductible. But if you're using it for your business, oh no, you cannot deduct the interest. Okay, so if that's, of course, there's limitations. I don't want to go down, give you figures here, but just know that if you want to use it for your business and the bank does approve it, you cannot deduct the interest element of it. Okay. All right. All right. So the next question, I think we have some time today. My staff, they are great, but I am struggling with increasing their pay or promoting them, as my sales are not that super. What should I do? Okay, first of all, kudos that you have staff that are great, because people are talking about staff that are leaving, and of course, I told you that staff turnover is very expensive. I mentioned training. I mentioned the cost of staff turnover is very expensive. Now you have good staff that is with you. Kudos and kudos and kudos. Now, you said you're struggling with increasing their pay or promoting them, and because your sales are not super, what should you do? Well, first of all, please look for ways to, first of all, increase your sales. You have to really work hard to find out why your sales are not your sales are not up there. I have a show that talks about how to increase your revenue. There's something you're not doing right, but I mean, you think of it. If this staff is with you for some time, you said so, and you don't want to give them promotion, you don't want to give them increase in pay. We know that inflation is now, is now right. We're going through a period of inflation. I have a show that talks about how to deal with inflation. So if you are listening to this and you want to go and look at, or you want to watch that show, please go ahead. But you don't want to, you're struggling to increase their pay. You're struggling to even give them a promotion, and the promotion should come, of course, with an increase in pay. I would say that what you need to do is look for ways to increase your revenue. Look for ways to make sure that your revenue increases. Because, I mean, you don't want to be on the other side that says, oh, my staff, I can't retain staff. Because this is one of the reasons why your staff will leave you, right? Because, I mean, everybody has bills to pay. I know some of them, some might say, oh, you know what, I don't mind, I will stay with you. But a lot of them will say, yes, I've been with you for a couple of years now. I've not seen any increase. I've not seen any bonus, actually what some companies do, or some SMEs do, They might actually say, you know what, I can't increase your paycheck, but I can give you a bonus at the end of the year. Some people do that, or they give them a bonus here and there. But if you are struggling and you're telling me that, or hear that your revenue is not doing well, so I'm thinking that that revenue, in that bonus will not even work with you, right? That bonus will not even work with you. All right. So I would say, first of all, look for ways to increase your revenue as soon as possible, and also be transparent with your staff. Tell them that, and sit them down and say, you know what, appreciate what you guys are doing, or everyone is doing. And I know that, by now you should have an increase in pay. Give me, and give me a couple of months. And actually, don't use couple, because that couple of months is not a good word. Tell them that, you know what, within 3 months, within 6 months, give them a timeline, because that shows that, you know what, you're transparent with them, and say, yes, there's some strategies that we're working on. Just give me, maybe if 3 months is too soon, give me 6 months. Let me see what we can do so that we can bump up everybody's pay, right? And during that 6 months, you work really hard to look for ways to actually increase your revenue. All right. You don't want to lose good staff. You said your staff are great. You don't want to lose good staff. It's very expensive to get, to recruit very good staff. You said, great staff, so you don't want to do that. Okay. All right. So, okay, I think I have time for one more question. Okay. All right. So the next question is, my business is doing well and I want to start paying myself. How do I determine my pay? First of all, kudos to you. I'm clapping because that's great. Your business is doing well. Excellent. Now, first of all, in addition to that second of all, if your business is doing well and you are a certain structure, an LLC, right? You're just an LLC. You cannot pay yourself a salary, all right? You cannot, that business structure cannot pay, you cannot pay yourself a salary unless you are a certain, an S Corp, C Corp, but you can't pay. So if, assuming you are one of those other structures, right? Now, if you haven't, I have a course on business structure. I'm going to let you know when it's available, fully available. So it's good for you to listen to that course. Now, if you are a business, right? And you have a certain structure like an LLC, you cannot pay yourself a salary. But let's assume that you're not an LLC. Let's say you're taxed as an S Corp or a C Corp. Now, to determine your pay, just look at the market rates of people in your profession getting a W-2. That's all I would say that would help you, right? Look at people in your line of business and find out how much they pay someone to your level. I know you're maybe a CEO, yes, but still find out, because you want to make sure that the pay is reasonable. I don't want to go into reasonable compensation. I know I've spoken about that, but I just want to make sure that you know that you have to be, look at the market rate. What is it that they pay? Because you also want to be able to defend your paycheck. All right. All right. So I hope that should be it. I think we have just a few more seconds to go. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand that today we're talking about business, the risk that SMEs face, and we also looked at the mitigating factors. How do you mitigate this risk? All right. The goal is to make sure your SMEs thrive. You don't want to be prepared for anything that might come your way as an SME, making sure your SME thrives. All right. So I really appreciate everyone that has been here today. And remember, for your business to thrive, what happens? You have to be intentional. I could speak throughout, and educate. As I said, this is just for educational purposes, but it's like a stepping stone for you to go further and say, okay, these things exist. I want to look into that. So make sure that you make sure that you are intentional as you want to thrive in your business. All right. So see you next time. Great having you. And of course, if you want to know more information about this show, go to driniadesanya.com and find out how you can come and on the show, and send me an email on anything that you want me to, any question you want me to answer. All right. Bye for now. Take care.